Welcome to the 2025 Dialogue, a masterclass series by the HR Association of India. I am Neha Jagnani, and today's session is the one that touches the core of workplace relationships and organizational health. Today's topic is breaking the silence, tough talks that transform workplaces. To lead us through this important conversation, we have with us Sonica Aron, founder and managing partner of Marching Sheep. With years of experience in HR, leadership consulting, and organizational transformation, Sonica has helped leaders and teams confront the conversations they often avoid and turn them into opportunities for growth, trust, and positive change. Her work reflects a strong belief that silence around tough issues doesn't protect culture, it corrodes it. And that courageous conversations, handled with empathy and honesty, can transform workplaces into thriving ecosystem of trust and collaboration. Sonica, thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much, Neha. And I'm so glad that, HRAI continues to take up such important conversations. It's very critical that we take them head on. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Sonika. Always a pleasure having you in these master classes, and I look forward to this exciting one. So, to begin with, Sonika, my first question is, in your view, what holds leaders back from having difficult conversations, and how does this silence impact trust, performance, and culture within the organization?
Okay. So there are two parts to this question. Okay. So the first one is that what holds them back? So let's understand the journey of becoming a manager, right? Now, for a lot of people, the journey to becoming a manager, how does it happen? Let's talk about people who pass out of MBA institutes. They come in as management trainees. They get confirmed as managers, and suddenly they become team leaders. They are responsible with 1 or 2 years of experience. They are supposed to be responsible for teams. Let's look at people who rise up the ranks, great people, getting good numbers, and purely on the basis of their performance, they get promoted. Now, very often they do not have any input in terms of people management. Now, people management involves a lot of things, including tough conversations. It includes giving feedback, it includes motivating, it includes listening, it includes observing, it includes building team cohesion, and so on and so forth. Very often, people who are first time managers, whether they come from campus or whether they grow from grassroots, are not given these inputs either in MBA institutes or at the organization level. Now, because of this, when they are faced with typically difficult conversations or situations, so for example, I am a team member, you are my manager. You know that I can perform much better, but I am not performing. And it could be because of any reason. I have a personal problem at home, or I am just demotivated because my last increment was not as expected, or whatever is the reason. You need to have a conversation with me and get me back on track. But you just don't know how to broach a subject, how to get me in a situation, how to start the conversation, how not to get or let it escalate into a situation where I put in my papers or other team members get into a situation saying that Sonica is not doing anything. Why are we tolerating her? So, a lot of this arises out of lack of awareness, lack of competence. This is just one example, where it is difficult to give feedback. A lot of things people are not aware of. For example, are not aware of how to deal with people from different diversity dimensions. People, there might be people in the team who are from the LGBTQ community or people who are disabled. They might not be able to have conversations with them because they have not been exposed. प्रोनाउंस यूज करने नहीं आते, समझ में नहीं आते. हाउ डू आई स्पीक टू अ पर्सन who might be a wheelchair user? Accessibility, we want to do a picnic or an event. How do I touch upon the topic? Somebody with an invisible disability, even if I'm doing reasonable accommodations, the other team members think okay, there is favoritism. How do we break this misunderstanding? How do we have this conversation? Now this is all arising out of lack of awareness and sensitization. It is not because I deliberately do not wish to. मुझे आता नहीं है, मुझे समझ नहीं आता कि मैं कहाँ से शुरू करूं. And it all starts with building this awareness.
Sure.
So अगर मुझे, if I'm given a direction, I will walk in that direction. I will at least try to move in that direction.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So
Acha,
just to,
then,
yeah.
then you had a second question, कि what is the impact? Now, see, everyone, in fact, at Marching Sheep, and we say this to all our clients, that an employee experiences an organization through the manager. You think of people who are based out of sales branches, think of people who work in factories, think of people who are working on sites. They are not meeting their HR, VP, or their top management on a daily basis. For them, their manager, their first line supervisor is everything. So, an employee experiences an organization through their first line of management. So, the manager, what kind of an environment the manager creates and how a manager treats an employee, उनके लिए वही ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कल्चर है. Now, if a manager is not able to have these transparent conversations, a manager is not able to create a culture of psychological safety, trust, transparency, then you will not have a culture where people feel a sense of belonging, where people will say कि हाँ ये हमारी कंपनी है, हम stretch करेंगे, we will put in all our hard work. अगर crisis भी है, then we will put in everything to make things work. We will do everything to make it succeed. So वो जो एक जज्बा होता है ना, that we want to unleash every employee's full potential, वो नहीं निकल के आएगा if we are not able to bring this transparency.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much, Sonika. So, just to summarize, what holds leaders back? You said lack of awareness. Not being able to get that direction in the beginning of your career also leads to this situation. Another layer to it was not being exposed to different generations or not having enough knowledge about having conversations with people from different communities. And about the impact, as you rightly said, no transparency means no sense of belonging. So individuals will
Right.
only thrive if they have an ecosystem where they're able to speak up and see things happening transparently. So thank you so much. Beautifully put. My next question, Sonika, is from your experience, what are some of the toughest conversations leaders must have and which they usually tend to delay or ignore?
I think some of the most difficult conversations are behavioral, attitudinal issues. And because, see, अगर कोई target performance based issue होता है ना, which is measurable and observable. So suppose अगर मुझे कुछ भी अपना work KRA related, if I am falling short on that, it is very easy for a manager to say that in your KPI you had to do this and you've done this. Feedback dena is very easy,
Right.
right? However, when it is a behavioral issue, right? So, for example, you sometimes come across as very brisk and rude in team meetings. Now, this is a very subjective line, which I have to justify through examples, through instances, how people felt, etc. Now, these are very difficult conversations. I can get into a very defensive mode. No, I did not mean this. The other person said this. The other person started this. Now, this is where I think, while this can it can lead to erosion of team cohesion, it can lead to loss of productivity, it can lead to a lot of chaos in the team. But team leaders, managers hesitate from getting into these conversations because यहाँ पे pinning down a person can be a little tricky unless you are very well trained or very confident
Right.
that you will be able to handle this conversation. So I have seen many times that behavioral issues go unaddressed.
Right.
और मैं हमेशा कहती हूँ दैट आप काम सिखा सकते हो, यू कैन टीच अ पर्सन नॉलेज, टेक्निकल स्किल, फंक्शनल स्किल, एटीट्यूड में, बिहेवियर में इट्स डिफिकल्ट,
Right. Right. Sure.
राइट?
Yes. So thank you so much. So there is behavioral, conversation, and attitude related, which are basically difficult because these are not measurable. And you have to be trained to be able to have that conversation that can stimulate a reflection from a person rather than resistance or, seeing the morale of the person going down. So thank you so much for throwing some light on that. My next question, Sonica, is how can leaders create psychological safety so employees also feel comfortable raising difficult issues?
Hmm. See, this I find very interesting, and I honestly believe that I think being a manager and leader is also a journey. All start as freshers. हम में से कोई भी मैनेजर या लीडर पैदा तो होता नहीं है. हाँ, some people have some born innate tendencies. But what I also feel is that, as we engage with people, curiosity, wanting to understand कि आपके साथ क्या हो रहा है, राइट, इंस्टेड ऑफ अज्यूमिंग कि अरे, जैसे आजकल बहुत चल रहा है ना कि जेंजी लेजी है, जेंजी काम नहीं करना चाहती, जेंजी इज टू प्रिविलेज्ड. But instead, understanding from them that how would they like to work, how do they like to break down their day, how do they like to approach their productivity. I have found that taking that approach has helped me work a lot better with my clients rather than, just assume कि अरे वो तो काम नहीं करना चाहते. So curiosity. The second is empathy. Empathy is putting yourself, there's a big difference between empathy, sympathy. I'm sure everybody knows it. Putting yourself in their shoes. So kabhi kabhi jab main multi generational sessions, when I talk about it, I'd say that, when I started my career, I had no option but to depend on my boss to learn from him anything that I had to do because there was no other source of knowledge. But today, there is so much knowledge available on internet, AI, anywhere that I don't need to depend on my manager for knowledge. What I need is direction, guidance, allyship. So we need to put ourselves in the other person's shoes. So empathy. And the third is transparency. So CET, we call it CET, curiosity, empathy, transparency. If as a manager, I am able to demonstrate curiosity, empathy, transparency, and this is actually an established Headley May model, then we can build psychological safety in the team. मेरे मैनेजर ने क्यूरियोसिटी डेमोन्स्ट्रेट करी, सो आई फील हर्ड. एम्पथी, आई फील सीन. ट्रांसपेरेंसी, आई फील वैल्यूड. So I can speak up. I will be heard. My opinions will be valued. My contributions will be valued. My problems will be heard. Right? Whether I get a solution or not. See, sometimes there are problems to which there are no solutions because managers operate within an organizational framework. But at least the manager can also raise it to somebody senior or to HR, right? So For me, curiosity, empathy, transparency, and obviously to support this, there is active listening. There is also humility, the feeling that I am not always right. दूसरों को भी सुनना चाहिए. So these are some underlying traits which are there.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sonica. Lovely framework, CET. My next question, Sonica, is what role does empathy play in navigating uncomfortable conversations without damaging trust or relationship?
The empathy is honestly an extremely important foundation, actually. Because many times we feel that if I have done this and I have done this like this, then why can't you? So sometimes when I am doing sessions for managers, see, a lot of management cadre today is either young generation X or older. The general this thing. Your millennials are 1980 to 1997. So आज की डेट में the age range around 45 के से पहले, around 40 45, that is the range of managers. Also, or plus around 50 तक, that is your leadership managerial 40 to 50 के बीच में, which is your late millennials, early generation X.
Yes.
Now, I ask them this one question. How many of you have been beaten by your parents for academics, discipline, or any such issue? And most of them raise their hands. सबकी बचपन में पिटाई हुई है माँ बाप से. Then I ask them, how many of you now raise your hands on your children, either for getting bad marks or for disciplining? None of them raise their hands. So I asked them that you have changed your parenting style because you understand that today children do not respond to the kind of parenting that we have grown with. And that is empathy. We have grown with a different kind of leadership. We have learned from a different kind of leadership because that was what was available at that time. Even the ecosystem was like that.
Right.
But today the ecosystem is very different, and we also, as managers and leaders, need to understand that today's workforce is not seeing managers and leaders saying that, okay, direct us, tell us what to do. They are saying, work with us. And therefore, being in their shoes and saying, okay, तुम्हें क्या क्या आता है? What all do you already know? Where can I help? Where can I enable you? Where can I support you? That is the role that managers need to play. Now, that is why empathy is so important. Many times I hear this statement from managers and leaders कि हमको empathy नहीं मिली तो हम आगे कैसे पास करें. जिस तरह से हमने अपना पेरेंटिंग स्टाइल चेंज किया है, उसी तरह से अपना लीडरशिप स्टाइल भी चेंज करना है, एंड दैट इज एम्पैथी.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much. Beautifully explained, Sonica. It's basically respecting what works, not necessarily reinventing the wheel, not necessarily doing what other has been doing or what has worked before. Is actually realizing what is the need of the hour. That is basically the reflection of how empathetic we could be. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for that. This brings us to the last question, which is, if you can share a personal or a client story, Sonica, where breaking the silence has led to a positive transformation in the workplace culture.
Hmm. So, I have been on the other side till 2012. So I was with the corporate sector till 2012. And then I started marching sheep in 2013. I have always found that, there has been a lot of talk about toxic managers, etc. I have always found, जैसे स्कूल में bullies होते हैं ना, जब तक you don't stand up to a bully, the bully will keep on trying to scare you. But the day you stand up and you show that you are not scared anymore, the bully backs off, right? Now, whether when I was in the corporate sector or whether I have been on the consulting side, I have found that every time I have taken a stand against a manager or a leader or a client who has tried to push me unreasonably, but I have stood my ground saying, this is it, this is how it works, this is the right solution, this is what we will do, otherwise, we will not do. And I have done it with logic, rationale, and not budged. And it has always worked. So for me, I think keeping that communication very clear, very transparent. I also remember that there was a time when I had a manager who had this habit of starting to scream. Okay. And I remember once she did that, and I came out of her cabin, I shut my laptop and I walked away. And she saw that. And she called and she apologized. And I said that it's happened this time. Please do not repeat it because I do not appreciate it. So, very calmly spoken. Uh, there are many times that clients think that, there is this word called vendor. Procurement team बुलाती है vendor, procurement team ठीक है. But many times I tell our clients that we are not vendors or suppliers. We are your knowledge partners, right? We are talking about people here, how people work, how people can do better, how you can unleash the potential of people. We are your knowledge partners. So I think establishing that respect becomes very important, and establishing that this is very important, this kind of communication. I think that is what ensures that whether with clients or whether it is with your manager or a superior, keeping what is your self-esteem, dignity intact with transparency. And that is in your control, honestly. And that control we should not give to anyone. I hope I'm making sense.
Absolutely. The crux of it is actually standing up for what you believe in. And you rightly said it is completely in your hands. And it's very critical when it comes to workplaces and in any kind of conflicts. So thank you so much, Sonica. This brings us to the end of this masterclass. And you have actually reminded us that silence is not neutral. It is something that builds trust, culture, and performance in many ways. So thank you so much for sharing your insights in this session today.
Thank you so much for having me. Love talking to you.
Always a pleasure, Sonica. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.